agenda. I will just be starting the meeting until Deputy Mayor arrives, so I'll call the meeting to order. Are there any declarations of conflict today? Not seeing any. I need someone to approve our agenda.
Moved.
Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Beck. Adoption of our minutes from Planning and Heritage Committee meeting August 5th. Moved by
Second.
and seconded. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Not seeing any. So the first report is under 6A, fever waiver policy update. And I'm assuming, is that you, Donna?
It's
No,
me.
that's Deacon.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Want to go ahead, Deegan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report is information purpose only to provide an update to committee and council on the proposed City of Charlottetown's municipal development permit fee waiver policy. This work started following a notice of motion from council asking Planning and Heritage Department to look into ways the city could waive development permit fees for certain community projects. To support this request, the Planning and Heritage Department completed a jurisdictional review of 17 municipalities across Canada as depicted in Appendix B. The review looked at how other cities handle fee waivers, whether through policies, bylaws, or incentive programs. Based on that review, staff prepared the first draft of the city's development permit fee waiver policy, which is included as attachment A in your package. The purpose of this policy is to create a clear, consistent process for evaluating requests for fee waivers. It aims to ensure that projects with social or community benefits can receive a support in fair and transparent way. This draft document is still in progress while initial legal feedback has been received, and further dialogue will continue as we finalize the policy. Once the internal and legal review are complete, staff will make any needed updates and bring the final draft policy back to committee for review and recommendation to council. At this time, this report is for information purpose only, and no further action is required from the committee. Thank you.
Can I ask a question there, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Page 10, I don't know, you don't have your purpose, section 1, subsection 1.1. Request from eligible nonprofit community organizations seeking to waive or reduce development permit fees. Maybe you have definitions there,
Yes.
so development fees. Does that also take into consideration a rezoning? It has development number 7. So development fee under number 7? Or is it separate? Oh, separate's not there. The reason I ask, because for rezoning, I think it's 2,000 or 3,000.
It depends.
Yeah, so it depends. So does it cover a rezoning, everything that's connected to or related to a permit, getting a permit?
No, there's an exemption section.
Yeah.
Go to the exemptions.
What section's that under?
4.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's what I'm at. Oh, would we not consider, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So did you cover rezoning a property?
No.
So that means if one of these listed organizations want to rezone, they would have to pay the rezoning charge?
It depends if they are a part of the exemption list, then they would be required to pay it. But it would be assessed on a case by case basis to see
Yep.
if they do fit the bill in terms of what we're trying to achieve in
No.
providing the fee.
Just wanted to know because think if you look at our rezoning fees, we're probably the lowest in the country. And I think you and David might have discussed or considered, we have to look at an amendment because of the amount of work that goes into a rezoning, research. Then looking at other jurisdictions on what, looking at
So
reference cases.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, so part of the zoning bylaw work is to look at the fee structure as well. So we will be addressing those there also.
Maybe just to add, if we want to like specifically spell out that this policy applies beyond just the development permit fees, we can certainly take a look at that with the policy as well.
Yeah, it's just that we have to be mindful that it doesn't lose the essence of why it was created,
Yeah, no,
so.
I agree. I was just asking for clarification. Look, I think this is a great idea. So, and I give credit to the deputy for the notice of motion to move this forward. Now we have a template that shows us what organizations would be exempt or waived for development fees, homelessness, emergency housing, transitional housing, sleeping unit. I think it's great.
And when can I ask a question now that the deputy's here to chair our own meeting? When I read about the partial waivers and it's where appropriate, is there ways to kind of be identify what does that mean, where appropriate? Is it just,
Which part of the
Depending.
concept?
so incentive and partial waiver, where appropriate, they may reduce rather than waive the fee? Like, is that just, is there
So-
criteria for that, or is that just very,
We would look to assess the application to see if it warrants a complete waiver or just a reduction of the fee that's normally charged.
and would there be like a rubric or something for
There
that?
would be something.
There would be
Yeah.
something attached?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that would be clear, if you're gonna
Yeah,
partially waiver, then based on what? Like,
Yeah,
what
it's-
is,
It's stated in example as well, like sometimes some projects they finish in milestone base. So let's say they finish the first milestone, they will get certain percentage of the waiver. If they finish the second milestone, then they will get the later percentage like that as well.
and there's an application fee that will accompany this policy that will
Sorry, Donna.
outline application that will accompany this policy that will outline some of the nuances that are not necessarily listed.
okay, yeah, it'd just be good if it was really clear for, and consistent.
Yeah,
And Madam Chair, I think the essence of what we're talking about here covers what the intent was. To consider permit fee waivers for projects undertaken by organizations such as nonprofits, volunteer groups, or those addressing community needs, food security or insecurity, and other social issues. So would you go with food security, or would you go with food insecurity? Or both, one and the same?
depends on how you,
Yeah, no, look,
Food security sounds a little more positive. than
yes,
food
it does.
insecurity.
So,
yeah, it depends on how you frame it.
so is this just for information purposes?
At the moment, yes, just to provide the committee with the draft of what we're working on and to see how we can improve it as we go forward before we bring it forward.
What are your next steps, Donna?
The next step will be to go back and add feedback from the committee here, and then we will send it off to the executive team for their review. And then after that, we send it back to Melanie's team for their final review before we come back to the committee with an updated draft that we would recommend to you look to approve and also have council approve as well.
What kind of timeframe are you thinking?
November, we'll be off for conference at the end of this month, so majority of the planning team will be off for planning conference. So we could do it in November or December, given if we get the turnaround in terms of the feedback from all the respective teams. Quickly, we could do that.
Any other questions from committee? Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize for being late, but I did let the powers that be know that I would be 15 minutes late, so I thank Julie for pinch hitting for me until I got here. Thank you for that. All right, right, moving on to our next agenda item, the patio bylaw update. And I guess that is coming to us from Sebastian.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of this report is to update the committee and council on progress to date on the patio bylaw and outline the immediate next steps required for approval. And the details are as follows. Earlier this year, a work plan outlining the steps to update the patio bylaw was presented to the committee. To date, a jurisdictional scan has been conducted to review comparable bylaws across approximately 20 Canadian municipalities, including 5 within Atlantic Canada. This scan was undertaken to gain insight into best practices and approaches that could inform and strengthen the effectiveness of Charlottetown's patio bylaw. Internal circulation of the bylaw has been completed, with substantial feedback received from the bylaw enforcement officers. These comments have been carefully reviewed and incorporated into the amended bylaw. Key updates include 1. Changing the name to the patio bylaw. We're moving away from COVID-19, which served as a lifeline for restaurants during the pandemic, to a more permanent framework. Administration. Patios will now fall under the jurisdiction of the Planning and Heritage Department. Definitions. Those have been expanded and clarified to clarify terminology. Fee structure have been revised, and these are reflecting current practices. Application process has been streamlined to clarify, have been streamlined for clarity and efficiency. Compliance and enforcement. Provisions related to operation of patios have been clarified to support consistent application and effective enforcement of the bylaw. The city solicitor has been consulted to ensure that the proposed amendments are legally sound, enforceable, and consistent with both provincial and federal legislation, and that they align with the city's municipal authority. The next step is stakeholder consultation, which is planned to be completed between October and November. Following stakeholder engagement, the amended bylaw will proceed to senior management for review. Therefore, staff is recommended that council receive this report for information purposes only. No action is required at this time, subject to any questions you may have.
Thanks, Sebastian. I just wanna clarify that we're not confused. When you say, oh, we're gonna rename it from the COVID-19, but this is an amalgamation of more than just the COVID-19 patios. This was what was my understanding, that this included all patios, including the ones on the streets that are city, because that was not called the COVID-19 patio bylaw. That was completely different. The COVID-19 ones were the ones that were permitted through the planning department for the purpose during COVID, so that people could physically distance on their own personal property, taking away parking spots and stuff away. And then there was the ones that were done, I think, through the street vendors bylaw, that were the patios on the streets. So are we still amalgamating them all?
Yes, we are.
So what are we replacing with the street vendor bylaw name? It's all just gonna be called patio bylaw?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Any patio, then
Any
any
single-
patio falls
Patio.
under this
Right.
bylaw.
Falls under this bylaw.
So the street vendor bylaw used to have the patios and all the little pushy carts and stuff that sold stuff. So that's gonna be somewhere else?
That will remain.
That will just remain on its thing. So this will include all patios. Okay, thanks. Any questions for anyone else?
I just have a question about,
on the bylaw enforcement part, Mike, I don't know where we are with, I know we've I don't know what you can or cannot provide, and it just kind of ties into this because a lot of work is done on an annual basis, like we had Todd, who's been there for a long time, we had our former planning bylaw officer under planning. I understand that there's kind of might be an reorg going on or a redistribution of tasks, but I think if we're gonna be doing this correctly, we're gonna have bodies attached to it in order to be able to make it work properly. So how are we going to work on the, for lack of a better word, enforcement part or the regulation side of things?
Sure, I appreciate the question, and through the chair, obviously that's a big part of what we're thinking about as we move forward with all of our various bylaw amendments and consideration of new bylaws. In this case, part of the rationale for trying to take up these two separate pieces that the deputy spoke to earlier and bring it into one to be administered through the Planning and Heritage Department is to kind of reorient our customer service aspect when it comes to patios, make it a little bit more streamlined for the general public that staff are having the interaction with, rather than sending people to police or planning, bring it all under one umbrella so that it's a little bit easier for people to navigate. And then, secondly, making sure that we are using the appropriate resources for the appropriate tasks. So rather than having police actively involved in the licensing aspect, maybe we're looking at just having the bylaw interaction happen when it comes to the enforcement and of all of our bylaws, and focus on the licensing and the administration of some of these bylaws sit with the respective departments. So that's something that we're trying to work through now, and to your earlier point about reorganizing our structure to support that, that's something that the CAO's office is working on now, and we hope to bolster our capacity in that specific area moving forward.
Just follow up. So I get the streamlining application and putting it in the one area. I think it's a component has to be that second part about, it's great to have all the applications, it's great to have all the measures in place, great to have all the policies for people to understand. But what happens when those procedures and policies and directions are not being followed? And I think that's where we have a bit of a fall off. And I just want to, so when we come back and we update this, is that other part, the enforcement, the regulation, the oversight part, gonna be part of that as well too? I guess that's kind of what, I hope that we are going to see that when we come back with an updated, when this policy goes back through the final review, we have that element included as well, so that we understand as a council where we're going with that. Is that?
Again, through the chair, it's a great question, and it's something that, we're really trying to keep in mind through council's consideration of, that bylaw development policy that we brought through a little while ago. So as part of our process to consider new bylaws or even major amendments to bylaws, we want to internally and with council go through the process of considering, firstly, all the options in that, intervention spectrum with issues. Is it something that maybe could be solved with just a little bit of public education, or do we need to look on the total opposite end of that spectrum and have, regulatory intervention through the use of a bylaw? And that's, obviously the most resource intensive, where we're looking at, needing to have bylaw officers on staff, having vehicles and equipment and all the other things that are required to make sure that we're able to enforce these bylaws effectively. So again, to try and keep it as simple as possible, as part of the consideration of this bylaw, that's certainly something that we'll be working on the back end when it comes to the implementation, and that will be presented through committee and council once we get to that stage.
Thanks for that. And you're right, Councillor Beck. currently, we only have one bylaw officer for the entire city of Charlottetown. There is no bylaw officer right now with Planning and Heritage Department, so as Mike said, that's certainly obviously top of mind and will no doubt need to be a priority for council as we go forward in order, I mean, we have all these bylaws and no way to enforce them, even if it is just through education. I'm not saying that everyone should get a ticket for everything they do wrong, but right now, the enforcement piece in any level of way must be problematic for staff to enforce.
It's not even so much the, just sorry,
Yeah, go
if I
ahead.
could, it's not even so much the, I'm not looking at this in a punitive manner. It's, Donnie, you and I have had some discussions with some properties recently in the absence of the bylaw officer. So there are questions that have to be answered by the residents. When they come looking to us for answers, we have to be able to have someone who can give them a thoughtful, meaningful answer. And in the absence of our current bylaw officer, Donna, God bless her, and the province have stepped in to help out with answers for us. But that's a short-term measure that we're dealing with in the absence of those people. So I want that to be part of our moving forward with this, so that we have someone that we can dedicate to serving our residents on issues that matter with them. So I think that's an important component of it going forward, which is why I wanted to bring it up here today.
So, Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Guy.
could I just follow up? So, Mike Rush talked about the bylaws that we were looking at. And one of them is number 7, patio bylaw. So prior to COVID-19 temporary patio program bylaw, what did we have in place? Just the street vendors bylaw? That was it?
Yeah, your worship, we didn't, patios on private property weren't permitted. Before COVID-19, that became just a reaction, a pivot because of the physical and social distancing. So that's when lenience was given to restaurants to be able to use part of their parking lots. That in advance, in the past, when they opened their restaurants, they had to have a certain amount of parking. So that was, we were taking away that part that they had to have and letting them use it for patio instead. For example, and not throwing anyone under the bus, but an example would be the Old Dublin Pub. They were able to take away 2 of their parking spots in their own private parking and create a patio.
Right.
And that became the COVID patio one. Before that, they never had a patio because they didn't have a street to put one on.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I hope I answered that correctly.
So the first time this went into effect was back in 2004, I think, when the first patio went on the street, and that was
St. James Gate.
What is it?
St. James Gate.
St. James
Yep.
Gate.
On Kensington.
So did that fall under street vendors?
Yes, they
It did?
all ran under street
When it
vendors.
was public
Yep.
property?
Yep.
Okay, so Donna was saying, and you're both saying that we're gonna put everything under the patio bylaw.
That's correct.
And we will keep the street vendors bylaw too?
But the street vendors bylaw will cover off the other items in street vendor bylaw, which are those little pulley carts where people sell like hot dogs and stuff.
But they want public property.
Right, so that street vendor bylaw covers more than just the patios. So the other stuff, I assume, will remain in the street vendors bylaw.
So we discovered this when we were talking about the dilapidated unsightly premises. We also have to deal with the enforcement summary proceedings. Because if we're gonna apply penalties, do we not have to put it into our enforcement and summary proceedings bylaw? If we're gonna give fines?
It's tied to that, and so we're gonna update the fines section, which is Schedule B. to
Under that?
include- Yeah, under the enforcement and summer proceedings bylaw, to include the fines that would go with the patio bylaw. If there is any infringement or anything that's untoward outside of what the bylaw allows, then those fines will be added to Schedule B of the enforcement and
So
summer
we're gonna do the
proceedings
research
bylaw.
on that too, because we can't just put something in that enforcement and summary proceedings bylaw without checking out the
Yeah, we will,
legality.
yeah.
So there's gonna be, by the time this comes back to us, are you looking at 60, 90 days?
Well, Melanie has had a look at this already, Melanie.
Right.
And she has given us some instructions as to how we should move forward. We've incorporated some already, and we will use the feedback here today to
Okay.
finalize what else needs to be done.
Thank you.
And a timeline, the timeline that is going to be very important is that the folks that are existing with patio permission, they have one more year after this year before their encroachment orders expire. So they have next season, they expire in October of 2026. So then that's when this new bylaw will come into force. And so then it's basically, I guess, a fresh start.
Did we pick arbitrarily choose October? Could we just go with end of November or end of the calendar year?
I think it just was based on when the bylaw officer, Todd Sutcliffe, would get the folks to sign their encroachment orders. That just happened to be, I think, October 31st, because that's the date that all the patios had to come down on the streets. So that just became the date of the encroachment orders from years gone by.
Well, I wouldn't rush it. I'd say the end of the calendar year is December 31st. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, no one's gonna be putting a patio up in
Yeah,
November.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But they expire in October 31st, a year from this October 31st.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the update for the patio bylaw? Okay, seeing none, our next item on the agenda is the appointment of our Heritage Officer Natalie Munn. And as per our Heritage bylaw, right now, we currently council has to endorse and approve Natalie's hiring that has already taken place through HR. So I will turn that over to,
That's me.
that's you.
Yeah. So the purpose of this report is to obtain the committee's recommendation to council to appoint Natalie Munn as a heritage officer for the city of Charlottetown in accordance with the procedures as the chair alluded to that's set out in the city's heritage preservation bylaw. So Natalie began her role with the city in 2005, where she served as the heritage researcher and collections coordinator in the Planning and Heritage Department. Natalie holds a Bachelor of Arts in History with coursework concentrated in Prince Edward Island, Canadian and British history. Natalie also earned a master's degree from Dalhousie University, specializing in organizational management, archives, and records. Natalie serves on several heritage-related boards and committees and has received recognition for her work, including the 2018 Award of Merit from the Community Museums Association. She currently sits on the editorial committee for Island Magazine and the Stratford Heritage Committee, and has served as president of the Archives Council of PEI since 2019. Before joining the city of Charlottetown, Natalie served as a researcher for the premier Alexander Bradshaw Campbell's Book Committee, and was also the heritage officer with the PEI Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. Natalie's appointment as heritage officer does not diminish or alter the authority and duties of the current heritage officers, including Todd, who's retiring, and Brad Vince, who's also planner 2 on the policy side. This appointment, however, strengthens the departmental succession planning processes and ensures continuity of service during leaves and other absences. So with that said, the staff's recommendation is that council approve the appointment of Natalie Munn as a heritage officer for the city of Charlottetown, authorizing her to exercise the full duties and responsibilities of the role under the Heritage Preservation Bylaw. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the committee might
Does it
have.
require a resolution?
Thank you. It does.
Moved.
Okay, moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Beck, or, yep. I just have one question on that, and that is, we may wanna flag our heritage preservation bylaw updates, cause it seems rather counterintuitive or bizarre that council needs to approve something that's already been done through human resources. So it almost seems a bit
Redundant.
old fashioned or like it must be an old thing, you know, because or maybe I'm wrong, is that best practice? Like that, cause I was always under the understanding that council doesn't get involved in hiring.
It's not hiring, it's
Well, what if
just,
we said no?
well, that's true. But it's something that we could look at, cause we're now doing the update to the bylaw.
Yeah.
I am not sure if it's best practice across Canada, but I know that in a jurisdiction that I once practiced, then that was customary for the heritage, whomever was handling heritage had to be appointed.
Yeah.
So not certain if that's what obtains in Canada, but we will look at that because we're at the right time now. We're doing the bylaw update, so it's a good time to look at that.
Madam Chair, is it in the Planning Act?
It's in the Heritage Preservation Bylaw.
It's just
No, I'm
in
talking
a-
about the Planning
no,
Act,
it's not
so it's
in the
not in the
Planning
Provincial
It
Act.
will be in the Heritage Places Act,
Oh, it is, which is a provincial statute.
because then they gave us the authority to
Right.
govern,
So
regulate
we-
heritage, so.
Our bylaw cannot be weaker than the statute. So the statute has to be changed before we can change our. And I can understand the reason for it, Madam Chair, because of the value of the city of Charlottetown being a historic city dating back to 1765, and then also with the French connection from 1720, so I understand that. I just wanna say that Natalie Munn puts a lot of not just physical time, but a lot of collaborating power or organization into anything that she puts her mind to, and I know she lives in Stratford, well, we're trying to get her, right, we're trying to get her to move over here to Charlottetown like you, but other than that, she is, when I first arrived in 2019, we put on an exhibition, she was a wartime nurse, Georgina Pope, and she worked with Catherine Dewar, and it was just phenomenal, and everything that she's done since. But could I ask, Todd is still with us, Todd Saunders. Does Todd have the authority to, in her position as Heritage Officer, to make recommendations to, how can I say it? I'm searching for some words. Does she have the authority and would Natalie have the authority to interpret the heritage preservation bylaw, is that what we're
Yeah,
doing?
that's
Just-
what we're
Just
doing.
trying to clarify
Yeah,
that.
That's what we're doing, so Todd and Brad currently has that authority.
Okay, so when Todd leaves, do we still have to hire someone else?
No,
So Natalie is replacing Todd?
well, we should use that term,
What?
Effectively.
yeah.
So
From an
was
operational
this a public, was this a, did we go public for this position, like did,
It was
And-
advertised.
and it
yeah,
was
Yeah,
vetted
It
through?
went through human resources and it was advertised, which is why my questions, just to clarify, were not about Natalie's credibility. My questions were that I was slightly perplexed that council is not involved in hiring. That's human resources, so I was just seeking clarification on why we would have this exception to that rule when we constantly tell our residents that we are not involved in hiring. It wasn't about what Natalie did or what Natalie didn't do, it had nothing to do with Natalie, it had to do with this bylaw. And as the mayor said, if it's in an act and that supersedes this, I was asking clarity, so
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure it's on the public record that this was not about Natalie's credibility, this was about me asking about a bylaw.
No.
But a lot of our planning staff have come through our committee,
Yeah.
like you look at our building inspectors
I
and
know.
Sure, yeah,
and
No.
different things,
That's in
and
the
I
act.
agree what,
Yeah.
well,
that's in the statute.
Yeah.
That's not just for Charlottetown, that's for all municipalities in Prince Edward Island. And just let me clarify, I wasn't trying to dispute what the chair was saying. I was just talking to the applicant, not anything you were saying. I know Natalie, I think we all know her work, and I appreciate her work, so that's where I was giving kudos to her work. Nothing to question about any clarification whether we were responsible or who's responsible for her hiring. It's just the person herself. So again, there'll be no more hirings because Todd moves on, Natalie stays with us. Perfect, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Back.
So when will Todd be retiring, when will she remain in the interim, like, will we have, cause it says there's no financial implications there, because Natalie is replacing Todd, but is one in the door, one out the door? Is there gonna be an overlap there, or?
An
How's that
overlap
gonna work?
of just over 3 months. So
So-
Todd will leave at the end of December, so having Natalie in the position starting last Monday, would mean that Natalie will be able to shadow Todd a little bit, learn some of the stuff that Todd has been doing over the years, and that she just seamlessly goes into the position when Todd.
So would that not be financial implication then?
Todd is part-time, so Natalie's full-time, and Natalie is always in the position, so Natalie's position now that she occupied before is not yet filled. And we don't think that we will have that filled before the end of December, so that salary will then carry over with the part-time that Todd is on to support Natalie's
But once you fill Natalie's position, then there's still gonna be financial implication.
But that position is already budgeted for. Natalie's current position is a part of the organizational structure. So
Right.
that's already accounted for in our budget.
Right,
So
but
Todd's position-
but Todd's part-time
Todd's
and Natalie's
part-time.
full-time, so there has to be financial implication.
But all of that is already accounted for through the half budget that we already approved. So it wouldn't be a significant financial implication.
So just to clarify, that was part of the report with the change in the position that came through committee a couple of months ago, I believe. I can't remember the exact date,
Yeah.
but
It wouldn't be significant in terms of the implication to the finances of the operational budget.
Cause there'd be a difference in salary between Natalie's current job and her new job.
So the thing is that, I don't know how much I wanna say on that, in terms of what, in terms of what.
No, I'm just, but it is a
It
legit
is,
question, because there's,
I understand, but it's just that, based on the salary that, the part-time Heritage officer gets, it's way more than what, the position that Natalie is now gonna go to is gonna start at. So Todd, having been in that position for over 20 odd years, her salary is significantly more than what Natalie would start at. So, as Todd goes out of that role, we'll kind of sound this out.
I think just to keep it simple and avoid getting into
Yeah.
detailed discussion on individuals.
Yeah.
This has been budgeted through the budget process as part of our half spending plan to make sure that we were covering off any period of time where we would have both
Yep.
acting in the same role.
and that's what we were trying to understand.
Exactly, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, all those in favor of moving this on to council? Wonderful, great, thank you. Last item on the agenda is a committee report on the e-permitting change request. And that is, Donna, again.
Yeah.
It's busy.
So the purpose of this report is to inform the committee and subsequently the finance committee and council of a change request required to complete the implementation of the e-permitting system, which is part of our 8 HAP initiatives, and to seek approval to reallocate funds from the existing budget to cover the associated implementation costs. So, as stated before, this is one of the initiatives that the city agreed to through the HAF program. and it commits to implementing an e-permitting solution to enable seamless data entry and end-to-end interdepartmental review and approval for development permits. So since the project's initiation early this year, staff from multiple departments have participated in requirements workshops and process mapping sessions led by Esri. So during those sessions, it was realized that there are some additional case templates that are needed to accurately reflect some of our permit application workflows and processes. So configuration for the added case templates will be deployed concurrently with the primary implementation, and no impact is anticipated to the overall project completion timelines. The project is funded through the Housing Accelerator Fund, and the required adjustments will be managed through the half reallocation and will not affect the department's operating budget. So with that said, the staff's recommendation is that the Planning and Heritage Committee recommend to the Finance Committee and subsequently to Council approval of the submitted change request and reallocation of $35,492 from existing budget lines to fund the associated costs as outlined in this report and the attachment. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you, Donna. Any questions from the committee? Pretty straightforward. Too bad we didn't have it yesterday for our finance meeting. No. All right.
Maybe just add, if I could, that beyond this, I mean, this is part of our budgeting process to complete the work that is currently scoped. But I just want to make sure it's clear for both committee and for council that moving forward, this is a system that's going to require some maintenance as we make changes, in particular in the context of where we're at with the new zoning bylaw. So as we consider changes to the zoning bylaw, maybe we are creating new processes that we don't currently have in our existing bylaw. That will also need to be changed, after that work's completed in the system. So going into next budget, I just want everyone to be aware that we will be budgeting for some of those changes in that maintenance to that system as we move forward, so that we make sure that as we're updating our regulations, we're keeping this system current and as effective as possible.
So the system's up and running now?
No,
No,
it's under construction.
it's been under construction. We started talking about this in 2019.
Not this one.
It's a big build, Like a lot of things, we just keep building on it.
So this
The
effort
top floor done?
this effort started this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the people around this table know, I've heard we got e-ticketing, that works, so e-permit shouldn't be that difficult. But I understand that it would help the process, it's just that. Got a timeline for this, are we looking in the new year?
Early New Year.
New year, yeah, the money's there, right, through HAP and.
It's one of the key initiatives in our Housing Accelerator Fund initiative.
Yeah.
And it's from a customer service aspect, this is something that we're very focused on delivering on, obviously as soon as possible, but we wanna make sure that we're not rushing to make a mistake as well. We wanna make sure that we're testing it with our key stakeholders to make sure that this system is gonna be very effective for everyone.
Right. But you'll still have the option for people to fill out the paper copy too, right? It's not like we're going completely e-permit, no. No, it's good, so next year, look at the new year.
Great. So we just need
Celebration.
a resolution to move this on to the Finance Committee. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Any questions on all right, so all those in favor of moving this on to Finance and then eventually on to Council, wonderful, thank you. Well, I think that completes our agenda, unless somebody has any introduction of new business that they want added to our next committee meeting.
Just an update on the West Street designation. Looking for that, just new business.
Yeah,
That's
sure,
all I wanted to.
okay. And motion to adjourn. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Beck. Thank you, everybody.